Magic Emperor Chapter 877. As soon as that crushing pressure finally vanished, the three-headed crow finally dared to crawl back up. Even though it was still terrified, it didn't dare look back at Zhuo Fan, and instead just silently spread its wings, flying straight toward Kumping's lair. In an instant, both man and beast stood atop the towering mountain peak. Before them lay the familiar cave entrance, looking like a giant maw ready to swallow anyone who dared approach. Standing at the cave's mouth, the three-headed crow felt anxious because bringing a stranger into the territory without permission was a major taboo for royalty. However, it had no other choice since the human standing behind it was far too powerful to offend. After hesitating for a moment, the three-headed crow finally stammered out a report that Zhuo had arrived and wished to see the master. Wait, what? My dad is actually here. Surprisingly, before Kumping could even respond, a joyful child's voice echoed from inside the cave. Right after that, Yu Santum rushed out and tackled Zhuo Fan in a hug, exclaiming how much he had missed his father. Seeing his little boy clinging to him, Zhuo Fan's cold exterior completely melted away. He gave a gentle smile, patted the boy's head, and asked if he'd like for him to stay by his side and protect him forever. Really, Dad? Yu Santum was beyond shocked and cheered happily, saying that having his dad around all the time would be the best thing ever. Just as things were getting emotional, a sudden burst of hearty laughter rang out. Kumping, in the form of a burly and majestic man, gradually appeared before the father and son. The moment he spotted Zhuo Fan, he let out a warm, booming laugh. He asked Zhuo Fan why he felt like visiting today without any heads up so he could send his subordinates to give him a proper welcome. Zhuo Fan gave a slight nod with a knowing look in his eyes. Even though Kumping was acting all friendly, Zhuo Fan knew full well the guy was actually pretty annoyed deep down. For a ruler of his status, letting someone wander in unannounced was a serious blow to his prestige. Hearing the commotion, Zhuo Fan picked up Gisantum and lightly hopped down to the ground. Then, he gave the three-headed crow a little pat, and told it its job was done and it could go take a break. Watching that go down, Kumping's cheerful expression froze, and his smile vanished instantly. His gaze turned icy as he glared at the three-headed crow with pure fury. You have to understand, the three-headed crow was his most trusted subordinate, the one he'd even entrusted with the precious Chaos Azure Flame. Yet here was this trusted aide, bringing a stranger in without permission, and following Zhuo Fan's orders like a loyal puppy, looking for all the world like it was betraying its master to his face. Zhuo Fan's move was a blatant provocation, an open attempt to poach Kumping's own guy. As the king of all beasts, how could he possibly just take this insult lying down? However, since Zhuo Fan was a VIP and hadn't crossed any major lines yet, he didn't have a solid excuse to snap at him. But for the three-headed crow, the situation was a whole different story. Kumping's look was now pure murder, like he wanted to execute the bird right then and there. Seeing his master's rage, the three-headed crow trembled in fear and begged for mercy, pleading that it had been forced, and had no other choice. Kumping wasn't buying that excuse for a second, though. To him, that monster bird looked absolutely loathsome right now, and he just wanted to punish it severely to vent his anger. Zhuo Fan spoke up to apologize for the surprise visit, explaining that he was the one who forced the three-headed crow to bring him, so there wasn't time to send word. Watching one side seething and the other shaking in its boots, Zhuo Fan read the room perfectly. He spoke calmly, though it wasn't clear if he was trying to smooth things over or just stir the pot even more. Hearing Zhuo Fan's explanation only made Kumping angrier, and he didn't even bother hiding his annoyance anymore. He thought to himself that this was his subordinate, and Zhuo Fan had no right to butt in on how he handled punishment. Still, knowing Zhuo Fan was still useful, he had to take a deep breath to choke back his rage and keep his cool. But before he could say a word, Gisantum piped up, saying that since Zhuo Fan was family, coming home didn't require anyone's permission. Right, exactly. After a moment of being stunned, he had no choice but to tell the three-headed crow that from now on, Zhuo Fan was family and could come and go as he pleased without reporting. Despite trying to smile, by the end of the sentence, he was practically grinding his teeth while giving the three-headed crow a threatening look. Knave ever. Gisantum thought his big uncle was just giving his subordinate a stern talk to ensure his dad got an even better welcome next time. Zhuo Fan, however, caught the irritation laced in every word Kumping spoke. Anyone would be ticked off if an outsider started messing with how they managed their crew right in their own backyard. Zhuo Fan could only chuckle to himself, and give a slight shake of his head at the whole situation. The three-headed crow felt totally victimized but could only nod in silence, not daring to talk back. What are you still standing there like an idiot for? Go get some air somewhere else, you'll have to see Zhuo Fan off later anyway. Pumping continued to glare at it with pure resentment. At this point, he was disgusted by everything the monster bird did and just wanted it out of his sight. Terrified, the three-headed crow quietly slunk off to a corner, trembling as it waited for the next command. Santum watched Kunping for a bit, and then wondered why he seemed so cranky today. It's nothing. I've just got a bit of a toothache. Hearing that, Chuofan almost burst out laughing. A toothache. A powerful sacred beast with an indestructible body using a toothache as an excuse for his bad mood. This was clearly his sarcastic way of hinting that he was beyond pissed about Chuofan's presence. Santum didn't seem to buy it, but he didn't push when he saw his uncle wasn't in the mood to talk. The boy hugged Chuofan and happily said there was no need for the three-headed crow to take him back because his dad was staying here with him. Say what? Not leaving. What on earth are you talking about? He turned to Chuofan and asked if he really planned on staying here and ditching the crucial tasks he'd been assigned. The Kunping's shocked. Chuofan calmly replied that he'd finished part of the mission and had just met with the heaven-burning dragon ancestor. At the mention of that name, Kunping's expression shifted, and he urgently asked what the dragon ancestor had said. Chuofan told him the dragon ancestor had filled him in on everything, from ancient grudges to his current situation. He smiled, but felt a pang of sadness inside and gave a soft sigh. Kunping gave a serious nod, and asked Chuofan what he planned to do now that he knew the whole story. Chuofan answered that since they shared the same enemy, he would definitely side with the sacred beasts. He gave a wry smile and said that while he owed everything to Kunping, it was also the reason he had to give up everything, leaving him unsure whether to be resentful or grateful. Kunping spoke leisurely, saying that staying alive was what mattered most for protecting what you love, while asserting they were on the same side, so there was no need to worry about gratitude or grudges then. He asked if the dragon ancestor had a plan. Chuofan sighed gloomily, and started recounting the dragon ancestor's instructions in detail. After listening, Kunping seemed to grasp the situation and nodded with satisfaction. He was thrilled to hear about the 8 cracks in the mortal rank barrier that could lead out of this cage, believing that if they joined forces, their chances of winning and creating a new world order were huge. Kunping excitedly slapped Chuofan on the shoulder and let out a confident laugh, as if victory were already within reach. In contrast to that excitement, Chuofan seemed pretty indifferent. To him, those ancient grudges had nothing to do with him, yet he'd been dragged in and forced to be away from his family. Feeling a sting of heartache, Chuofan took Santum's hand and said that from now on, they would never be apart again. Hold on, what the hell do you think you're doing? Kunping barked, stopping them.